Hi and welcome to the channel. I figured just since I recently got my Ogre's Ring, I would go over a couple of things that might help you with farming your Ogre Ring or your Mark of Shadow or your Witch's Earrings. Now let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now one of the things that is very important is to find whatever node is located with what you're farming. For Mark of Shadow, it's going to be Abandoned Monastery. For Ogre's Ring, it's going to be about 3 different nodes. There's going to be Calpheon Castle Western Forest, which is probably going to be around half of the ogres. Mancha's Forest is going to be about the other half, and there's about 1 ogre that sits in Tober's Cabin. I wouldn't really focus on that one too much, but I mean, if you want to go ahead and invest in it, you can. For the Tree Spirit Belt, it's mainly going to be Trent Forest, and for the Witch's Earring, you're going to want to focus on Hex's Sanctuary. Now what you're going to do is to grab all of these nodes, or just the node for that particular farming spot, and you're going to want to start investing energy in it. Now one of the tips I highly recommend is using your alts for that. Now what do I mean by this? Each one of your alts shares with your labor cap, meaning that at 186, each of them will individually have 186. They will each have their own amount of labor to it, meaning that I can go on one character, spend a complete 186 of that energy, and then move on to the next one. It makes it very great for dumping energy into each node, and it makes it fantastic for doing things like processing in general. So using your alts is a fantastic way to, use your energy. And even one of the things you can do is set it in Vela, or Vela, and convert them into energy potions if you want to just focus on your main. But I highly recommend using them to focus on upping the node that you're going to be farming at. Now one of the biggest things you're going to want to do is find 2 foods that are going to benefit you. Each food has about a 30-minute debuff, and each one lasts for about an hour. So at one point you could have 2 buffs running for 30 minutes at minimum. This is very good for continuously, giving you at least 2 buffs that'll help you farm. I went ahead, when I was doing it, is choosing an omelet to get the damage reduction in, and at least get some steam burp for some XP. Now when you're farming an item with a low drop chance, one of the things you want to do is focus on your luck. I went ahead and paid for some luck underwear, and I went ahead and threw a gem in there, so I was constantly at 5 luck while farming for the item I'm at. There are multiple different ways that you can cap out on luck besides throwing gems in there, or going around and increasing your luck, or just, buying some underwear. Luck is going to help you with your drops immensely. Now one of the big things I want to talk about is channel hopping. Channel hopping is kind of a mixed bag. You can get some good channels, aka channels that aren't crowded when most of them are crowded, but one of the general methods I like to do is avoid the top channels and avoid the bottom channels, and kind of aim for the lower middle. The reason being that there are some people that just straight go into the game and hit the first couple channels, and then there are those that are specifically farming for something, and then generally in the mentality they want to hit the lowest channel numbers. That's why Valencia 1 through 3 will tend to be more crowded, even though they're the lower channels. I kind of tend to stick between Serendia 2 and Media 2, just to hit the middle of the bottom, and they tend to be the lowest out of all of them. This can also hurt you in multiple different ways, more than it benefits you sometimes. The time it takes to switch channels, not to mention the time it takes to load back in and get back to where you're going, not to mention the amount of people that could already be there. I would use this as kind of a last resort option, or if you're really getting lucky, you can go ahead and use it as one of your first resorts. But I would always aim for the middle to the bottom of the channel list. Now one of the biggest things is knowledge. Knowledge in this game is monumental in a lot of things. When you're killing monsters, the knowledge you have on mobs is going to be big. The knowledge you can get on monsters is C, B, A, S, and S+. When you're farming mobs, such as ogres or whatever you are farming for the item, you want to focus on S and S+. And whenever you want to reset the knowledge on whatever you're killing, you want to hit this lady in Calpheon. Now, I highly recommend you parking an ult here so you don't have to go away from your grinding spot to do this, and you just hop to an ult, delete the knowledge and reset it, and then go at it again. To reset the knowledge, you just go to her and hit knowledge management. you'll go over here and select wherever you're trying to farm for the knowledge. Say Calpheon. Mancha Forest is one of the places that you'll find, or is pretty much the only place you'll find ogres. And to reset it, you'll just hit delete, spend a little bit of energy, and there you go. Now the next time you go to ogres, or whatever mob you're farming, you won't have any knowledge on them, and you have to regain it. You can do this repeatedly until you get S or S+. S+ is going to be super rare, so even getting S is a major achievement. Now, there are multiple different ways to farm mobs, but if you're intending on staying there for quite a long time, one of the things you're going to need is a wagon. I highly recommend grabbing something like a noble's wagon if you're got the money to spare, or at least to start a wagon. The reason being that the wagon has its own weight. So you can carry along extra potions, or whenever you're grinding, getting items that you turn into NPCs, you can offload it into the wagon. Not to mention, you can also train multiple horses at the same time, and it allows you to carry a bunch of items. I didn't personally use a wagon. By the time I got done with all my potions and everything, my armor was pretty much shot and I had to repair anyways, but if you were close to someone to repair, I highly recommend still using a wagon. It can be highly beneficial, and it just generally is a great thing to have on hand. Now, one of the things I want to mention is killing mobs in between the mobs you're grinding. Now, this isn't going to work for all of them, but for ogres especially, this will work for them. Now, with Mancha Forest, there are manchas in between each ogre. I found that grinding, or at least killing manchas in between each one of them, is a great resource of getting extra things like Goblin Chief Summon Scrolls, or Black Stones, or at least the Ancient Relic Fragments to make the scrolls. Now, not all mobs are going to have this, especially with Abandoned Monastery, but with Abandoned Monastery around here, I found a way to go in and kill a few of the mobs in Abandoned Monastery, and then come out and kill some of the treants, just to farm between Tree Spear Belt and Marcus Shadows. This is going to be a huge thing, and if you're kind of dead set on purely solo grinding that mob, if you are alone to that mob and you completely have it to yourself, it's perfectly fine. But one of the things I do recommend is if there are people fighting you for the mobs and you're not always getting it, I wouldn't necessarily waste your time by just solely focusing on that. Killing mobs in between then, or just briefly veering off course for a little bit and then coming back to grinding, can help you a lot. And also alleviates the stress of constantly killing an ogre or whatever mob and being like, oh, not getting the drop this time, not getting the drop this time. At least getting a blackstone or something in between then is at least a little bit of a plus. Now, I know I didn't cover everything, and there's a lot of things to grinding that you can't necessarily pinpoint, and there are things that help other people that don't necessarily help certain people. So below in the comments, if you could think of anything that I missed and that you can include, that would be greatly appreciated. You gotta remember, we're a community, and part of being a community is sharing and helping other people. Thank you very much, and I hope you liked the video.